When you're thinking about buying a business, one decision you'll have to make is whether you want to buy a franchise or an independent business. Both have pros and cons, and choosing the wrong one for your situation could cost you time, money, and opportunity. So in this video, I'm breaking down the biggest differences and advantages and disadvantages to each and how to decide which one's right for you. Stick around.
Welcome to the Power of Biz YouTube channel. My name is Tim Delaney, and over the past 11 years, I've purchased businesses and real estate to build my financial independence. My journey began with buying my first business with just 10% down, and through hard work and strategic decisions, I've been able to create the life that I want. I started this channel to share my story and experiences with the hope that I can help you do the same. Whether you're looking to break free from the 9-to-5 grind, build long-term wealth, or take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Join me as we explore the ins and outs of buying businesses, the challenges and rewards, and the practical steps you can take to create the life you desire. Together, we'll navigate this exciting journey to financial freedom.
So before I jump into today's topic, I'd like you to take a minute and just hit that like button. I know you're going to like the video anyway. Subscribe to this channel so that you can get updates whenever we're doing new videos on buying businesses and running businesses successfully. So the biggest difference between buying a franchise and buying an independent business is the systems versus the freedom. One of the biggest pros of buying a franchise is that they have all of the systems and processes and manuals and procedures, everything ready to go for you for the most part. Franchises systems will differ a little bit, but for the most part, franchises will have the playbook ready to go to tell you step by step what you need to do. In some ways, it's almost like still being an employee of another business, which is one of the cons for somebody that truly wants to get into business for themselves, which is where the pros of an independent business come in. In an independent business, you are solely responsible for all the decisions. Branding, marketing, systems, processes, procedures, pricing, everything is up to you to decide. You get that freedom and flexibility of whether you want to change your colors, whether you want to change the layout, versus in a franchise, you're beholden to what the franchisor decides that they need to do. For example, I have a franchise in a plaza that I own that has to do a massive upgrade and revamp to their whole layout because the branding has changed slightly. So they're going to spend between $30,000 and $40,000 to revamp their entire store. This is an owner that just purchased that franchise from somebody else recently. So those types of things come up. It's usually in the franchisee's best interest. Again, a pro of the franchise system is that they do the research, they decide on all of those factors for you, they know what's going to resonate with customers for the most part. I mean, yes, they're going to make mistakes, but you have all of that information and systems down for you. Whereas in the independent business, it's up to you, which is a pro and a con. You get to decide your fate, you get to make the decisions, but you are also have to spend the time and energy to come up with that stuff. Some of the downsides of buying a franchise, like I just mentioned, that revamp fee that came up for that particular franchisee is one of them. But even when you're buying the franchise, a lot of franchise systems have a transfer fee. So when somebody opens a franchise, they pay a franchising fee up front, which can be anywhere from tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how big and strong that franchise company is. But also when you're buying the franchise from somebody else, they usually make you pay a transfer fee. They might also make you go out to their headquarters to get embodied into the culture or do a specific training so that you know their ways and processes and systems. So besides just the transfer fee, you may incur some travel costs and some educational costs involved in that transfer as well, the sale. Royalties. So with a franchise, you're typically paying anywhere from 4 to 8% of your revenue into the franchise system on all your sales. You might also pay upcharges on inventory, depending on how their system works. So everything you buy has to be a very specific thing. I'm thinking particularly in the food business, but even in other franchises that rely on certain equipment, they might have to buy specifically from suppliers that the franchisor uses, partially so they can help track your sales, but also so they get a little upcharge from those products as well. You'll pay marketing and branding fees. Sometimes, they do an ad campaign in your region. They might collect fees from you and the other franchises in the area so that they can fund that advertising campaign. With the franchise, you also don't have the freedom and flexibility to change your branding at all, or to express yourself necessarily, to share your own personal journey and stories with your customers. It's very corporate feeling most of the time. You also can't adjust your prices. So you're usually beholden to what the franchisor says the pricing is at any given time. So while they offer a very good turnkey system that is going to walk you through step by step and hold your hand, it really can minimize your ability to adapt and maximize your profits overall. So some of the benefits of buying an independent business are going to be kind of opposite and contrary to that. Is the upside. One of the biggest advantages is that upside potential. There's really no cap on how big you can grow, how big you can take your territory, whether you can add more locations without having to pay additional fees to a franchisor. It's all up to you. You can expand into new markets. You can add additional products. You can change your product selection. You can adjust the pricing based on what you see fit for your market. If you can make a little bit extra margin on something because you know that nobody else is selling it right now, you're free to do that. If you have to bump a price up because your cost on that item is getting too high or too out of whack, you're welcome to do that. You can always go and find new ways to increase your profits, and that profit goes directly into your pocket without having to pay any kind of royalty to the franchisor. Some of the negatives, conversely, are that you are on your own. You don't have that back office support that a franchise supplies. You can't call somebody to get an update on a system, or technical support, or questions about different products that you are selling. It's kind of all onto you. So a little bit more effort and work that goes into it. You're designing all your own systems and processes. However, you have that bigger upside. Brand recognition. One of the benefits to a franchise is you're typically getting some brand recognition that's already been in the market and that people are familiar with. I say typically because we're talking here specifically about buying a business, so that franchise has already been around a little bit. If it's survived long enough, if the franchise system as a whole is still around and you're buying an existing one, it definitely has that recognition, and it's easier to build that trust with people because that's one of the things that franchises do. They put their name out there, they've built a brand. Whereas with an independent business, you might have to do a little bit more work to build that brand. It is a little bit different when we're talking about buying an existing business because typically the business that you're going to be buying has been around for a little bit already. So that's not a huge difference in factor between franchise and independent business when you're buying a business, but it is still something to consider. So what type of business is best suited to different people? If you're somebody that likes structure and systems from day one, somebody that wants a little bit less risk and a clear roadmap, and somebody that prefers a proven brand with built-in kind of long-term customers from wherever they're coming from, then a franchise might be better suited to you. But if you're comfortable with risk and you're willing to kind of take full control and make decisions on your own and kind of have no limit on your expansion and your branding and your marketing, then a independent business is definitely more suited to you. Due diligence. What should you be looking for when you're buying either one of these businesses? In a franchise, one of the things that you're going to want to go deep on the due diligence part is the franchisor as a company itself. Franchisors are required to put together a very, very large manual with lots of sections that are consistent for every single franchise system. They have the same sections. They have to be filled completely. They have to be filed with the Federal Trade Commission, I believe, the FTC, so that every franchisee knows and sees the exact same information. So if you're going to be buying a franchise, make sure you get access to that manual. Make sure you look at it and understand it, just to start with. If it's a publicly traded franchise, make sure you're looking at shareholder reports and earnings calls, and make sure that the company's in good standing. You don't want to go buy a franchise, pay the transfer fee, and then 2 months later find out that the franchise as a whole is going bankrupt and out of business. And then you're stuck with a brand that doesn't necessarily have any support anymore. If you wanted to buy a franchise, make sure that franchise is going to be around for a little bit. Call existing franchisees. I've gone through this process. I've never actually purchased a franchise, but I have gone down the road of due diligence on a couple. And one of the things that they will do during the time is that the franchisor will hand you a list of franchisees that you are welcome to call to get their take on different regions, different parts of the country. It doesn't matter. Call all of them, and then do your own research. Find a bunch of other franchises. It's not hard with the internet and Google Maps. Call some nearby, call some in other states, call some all over the place that aren't necessarily expecting your call. Some of them will answer, some of them won't, but the ones that do will give you an honest impression of what the franchise has done for them. Don't just take one person's word for anything. There could be one very disgruntled owner. There could be one very happy owner and the rest are disgruntled. So that's why I'm encouraging you to call as many as you possibly can to get that full, true take on how the franchise is doing, both in support, and health-wise, and whether or not they think it's worth it to own that franchise. For an independent business, the due diligence is a little bit different. You don't have those, franchisor level things to look at. You're really just focused on the current employees, customers, vendors, and making sure that the business is what it seems when you're buying it. So it's a little bit more straightforward, but also a little bit more complicated because it's not you're not just talking to the franchise level. You're trying to figure out who you need to talk to at an independent business level. Common mistakes when people are choosing between a franchise and an independent business. One of the biggest mistakes that I think people make with a franchise is expecting too much out of the franchisor. So yes, they're going to give you support. Yes, they're going to give you the systems and the playbooks and all that stuff, but they're not going to do everything for you. So don't expect that. Make sure that you are still prepared to be a business owner. You're still going to need to take responsibility for your employees, for your ordering, for the cleanliness and the operations of your business on a day-to-day basis. Yes, they'll give you support, but don't expect them to do everything for you. With an independent business, I guess one of the biggest mistakes is expecting too much from the seller. You don't want to rely on that seller after the sale, even when you put it in the contract that they have to help out for X number of weeks, months, years. You want to make sure that you understand things as much as you possibly can so that you don't have to rely on that seller either. So if you're unsure which path is right for you, just make sure you start doing the research, looking into both, analyzing both. Talk to brokers, go visit both that are for sale, see what you might fit you better. Let me know in the comments which path you think is better, what you would do if you're going to choose, and whether you'd rather buy a franchise for that structure or whether you'd rather have that independent business for the freedom and the upside. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, share it with a friend, and leave some comments below. Look forward to seeing you again in the future. Cheers.